Now, hello everybody, and welcome to the show. This is Dave Emmons and the Strange Reality Show, and I have a return guest tonight, and Doc Skinner. He's been on the show before, and we've had a lot of fun last time we talked. He's a fun guy, and he gets around a lot of and lot all kinds of, I guess, techie stuff, in which I'm not very good at. That's my biggest downfall is being techie. But we were talking about UFOs and chasing orbs, and a lot of times when you're in this investigative thing for a long period of time, or you witness things face to face, all this other stuff just becomes, I guess, past history to you. And you want to see some new stuff, or you want to see stuff that makes sense to you in your connections. But by all means, that doesn't mean I wouldn't stop, somebody from coming on the show and telling me they're uh, their stories and things that's happened to them. We're all interested in that. I want to get more people out there that'll tell their stories about ETs, UFOs, because we're going to have to be the ones that'll do the disclosure. It doesn't sound like the government is too much of a hurry to do this. But on Strange Reality, I will invite people that tells their stories the first time, and we take it easy. We just walk through it. But I know a lot of people feel like their families and their friends are pointing at them and saying, hey, it's crazy or something. I'm beyond that part. I'm too old to even think about being called crazy. I do have, I think I do have relatives and friends who ignore the topic and think maybe I'm a little extreme, but I'm telling you the truth. Everything that's happened to me is true. And I know everything that's happened to Doc Skinner is true, and everything he's researched and he's been involved in, and the people he's been involved with. He's got a lot of good stories. We're going to go into several topics tonight. Doc Skinner, he's a screenplay writer. He's gotten into UFO ETs. He works with famous experiencers, and he does talk shows a lot on the topic. He is also 4 decades in the entertainment industry. He's worked in Disney and Spielberg, Six Flags, SeaWorld, actor, stuntman, and a writer, director, and producer, promo, radio podcaster. He's been in podcasting. I guess he got tired of that, and moved on up and did something else. But he's written a book, and we'll talk about that also. He's a writer. He's done a little bit of everything, and he's working with AI. And I hope he talks a little bit about that and how he is coming to him pretty easily. But there's different AI programs out there, of course. He's done. Let's see, he's been in the disclosure top people in the disclosure movement. He's talked to them, and he's like I said, he's met a lot of people. And we're gonna have fun on the show. Doc Skinner, welcome to the show, buddy, and tell us what's going on with you now.
Hey, how's it going, sir?
Oh,
Good to have you.
I caught you with your green screen.
You did. You did. I didn't get my lights. I thought I'd have them up in time, but I was running behind. So green. So you just get like
Yeah,
green.
that's what happens to
Yeah.
me sometimes when I'm on somebody else's show. I don't have a
Yeah.
backdrop or anything. I have a green screen, so
And
it's
I was
okay.
worried if I used the auto thing, it would have made me look cloudy and weird. So I just
Yeah, it does that too. And
going
sometimes
going raw.
I get that, Doc. I'll move around and I'll see like shadow figures around me, black behind me and stuff, and I'm wondering where the hell is that coming from? So yeah, it does happen if you don't have your own setup. Like I'm on Zoom and I got a whole pic. I have about 18 pictures I can use and go to different ones, but I know you do too. You're a producer extraordinaire. Doc Skinner, tell us a little bit about what's going on with you now, buddy.
Well, I am doing, let's see, 14, I'm working on 14 scripts right now. Four of them are done, award winning. The rest are almost done. And we were planning on doing some filming this summer, but finances and the world chaos and everything kind of got pushed back a little bit, which is fine. But the subject of my film and the book is indoor skydiving, and it's a sport that has been around for almost 30 years. And United States is the one place it's not that popular because everybody's watching football and baseball and basketball, the staple sports out there. And so this film and book are the first ever of its kind for first ever feature film about the sport of indoor skydiving. They've been in like clips and Red Bull videos and a scene maybe in a movie, but nothing about the sport itself, the community, which range from kids ages 4 to 100
Wow.
and they fly. It's like New York Times actually just did a story on it, not my film, but on my flyers, the ones that are involved in the film. In the New York Times, it's a very large article, and I think they had 6 or 7 flyers that they interviewed, and 5 of them were from my film project. So that was really, really exciting.
What what
It's
is
going to
the
hopefully start
what is
catching on. What?
what is the height? Where they jump off some kind of a building that comes down, or
No,
are
no, no, no. That's base jumping when you drop up with
okay?
parachutes and
All
stuff.
right.
Indoor skydiving is a wind chamber, a wind tunnel that goes straight up and down.
Yeah. Okay.
And you have two very, well, there's different designs, but the main design that's used a lot, the best one is a building, and it's a rectangular square, or not rectangular, like a narrow square, and you have fans that are here at the top
Okay.
and I'm sorry, at the bottom, and they blow up and they come up and over. Shoot, reverse, sorry, backwards. Comes up and under uh, and blows through the center, and then it just recycles itself. So you have winds from 80 miles to 185 miles an hour that's shooting straight up. And you could have multiple people in there, teams of 4, 5, 6. And then they also have solo athletes that just do the most amazing things with air that you could only imagine.
Yeah.
And it is huge everywhere.
Yeah.
All other countries, it is like one of the top sports to watch. But over here, it's kind of just it's like polo, you know? It's a sport, but not everybody sees it or it's too expensive. And my goal with the movie is to get it out there and show people that anybody can fly if you really want to.
Didn't they train
And it's
astronauts?
safe.
They
Hmm?
trained astronauts with this in the beginning. That's where I saw it. Isn't that
Well,
true?
that's actually that's funny. In my story, in the story called "Fly the Rise of Jet Parker," this young boy moves to the White Mountains of Arizona from Dallas, and he was a parkour runner, jumping from building to building, and he busts his knee and told he can never run or play sports again until he moves to this small town, discovers a little rugrat group of kids on a team called the Wind Flyers, and he
Mhm.
discovers indoor skydiving. And it's kind of like has a Karate Kid vibe, Friday Night Lights,
Mhm.
a little Harry Potter, but it all comes together. And it that beautiful thing about the sport is that there's no animosity. Nobody boos anybody. There's no, we're number one, you suck, none of that.
Mhm.
Everybody uplifts everybody. And that's my motto that I use throughout the movie. And I've used in my show. Every night I close my show with, just remember, folks, as long as we all lift each other up, we will all rise together. And
Bingo.
now it's in the books, it's in the stories. But I am partnered with iFly, the corporation that has these facilities, and my film will be the first movie they've ever produced. So it's a really exciting situation. We're just waiting on a big studio for some final words from them if they're gonna get on board or not, because this is happening either way.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to wear any loose clothing in that thing, do you? You want to wear a
Well, when you first try it out, you'll try on the baggy outfits
yeah.
and that you see skydivers wear. But yeah, that kind of helps you a little bit. But there's also hand grips everywhere. So if you're doing competition with 3, 4 other people and you're spinning around, you're grabbing each other's legs, getting into positions. And that alone is an amazing part of the competitions. And I've just went blank on what it's called, this part of the sport. But early in the mornings, they have a bingo machine with little pieces of paper in it, right? And there's like 300 various movements or positions that these teams can do. Well, they do this thing and they pull out, 10, 15 or whatever, and all these teams have to go to different areas outside or inside and they practice.
Mhm.
And then they have to go in there and do it. I mean, you have to know all these moves
Mhm.
before it's just mind blowing.
Yeah.
And the kids are amazing at do it to music and it's just so much fun. It's always a rock show. And so I want to bring that to America and the world, this sport. And so hopefully it will bring people together and hopefully we can all uplift each other and have that bleed over into other sports because it originally came from skydiving. When you're skydiving, It's a brotherhood and a sisterhood because your lives are in each other's hands.
Mm.
So when indoor skydiving was created, and these skydivers are coming here and they're training people, they were passing on that mentality to young kids. So now all these kids, they believe in true sportsmanship, being good to one another, helping each other, uplifting. I mean, they train together, they travel together, they compete with each other.
Mm.
It's an amazing thing. So that's what the story is about. The book is on Amazon and Kindle. Also, my website, if you want to get the ebook, you can at 1028-productions.com.
Yeah, I'll put that
So
in your
that that
narrative.
that's the bread and butter right now. But I've also been doing a lot of other research in things like the mud
Yeah,
flood,
yeah,
um, the whole Tartarian Empire and the race. And at first, I saw a video of this gentleman. I think he's from South Africa, and or he could be British. And he would do these videos about the Great Mud Flood and the reset. And I saw these a couple of years ago during COVID. And I'm like, what? I just, this is one of those weird things, conspiracy. And I'm a conspiracy theorist. And even though I can like that, but now so much has been seen. And when you look at things, you look at pictures of these buildings that have just little windows along the sidewalk. Why would you put a window there? It's because everything people think, well, if there was a mud flood, where did all this mud come from? It didn't come from anywhere. It was already there. Large sonic weapons, used with sound, created vibrations and earthquake where the ground turns to liquid. It liquefies and everything sinks like quicksand. This is scientific fact. Anybody can look that up. That's not, hocus pocus. It's a real thing. And so that would explain why these windows, at different parts of the sidewalk on a hill are under, ground. And I have pictures I'll be able to show you off of Google where buildings that have been dug out and they continue downward.
yeah.
Now, these buildings were around in the 1800s, 1900s in America, all
Right.
across America. Okay. Now, this is when we had supposedly very few people here at the time. We had little, horse-drawn carriages and all that stuff. And of course, we see some of these buildings and there's mud everywhere. There's always mud in the road, in the carriages, and there was always mud. Nobody ever talked about that. So you have, these sonic weapons, they do this, and there's so much mystery of our history that we've been lied to. And one of the things that I've learned through this research is all of these buildings, and this is going to catch people off guard, were all founded. Do you know what founded
That,
means?
that means they were here some time ago, right?
It means we showed up to a civilization that was gone, except for all the infrastructure. And rich people like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, they come in and like, we found this. So it is founded on this date. I mean, you can't tell me a small town or small village with all these huge buildings and a hospital that can hold 200, patients. And then you've got, your other huge building, and there's only a village of maybe 100 people.
Yeah.
They didn't build all this. They didn't build all
I
that with
saw I saw a documentary on that doc where there was
yeah.
a town. I mean, this building was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was this really fantastic building structure, just like the things that you're showing me. And I'm glad you explained this frequency thing that caused the mud flow, because a lot of people are thinking it's kind of
Like
like
it was a flood.
another flood. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
When it was more of a quicksand. So, they just announced a week or two ago that at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, 5,000 feet down, they found a full-blown playground. Like it was used at one time.
Hmm.
And so and of course, we don't hear anything about that. We're just hearing about all the rioting and all
Yeah,
that.
right, yeah.
Distraction, distraction, watch his
We
hand,
got
don't
these
watch
little
his hand.
silver balls that are being thrown out around us, and we're watching those instead of.
Oh, the silver ball is like the one down in not Bolivia. What was the South American the silver ball that was flying and it
Yeah,
ran into an electric line and, and fell to
yeah,
the ground.
yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool thing. The fact that they gave it an MRI and it's got 17 or is 18 little spheres inside. They think it's like that's the brain. There's no opening, no way it could have been built. It was like it's like it was just it's at one piece, and then you have that weird robotic. Well, it looks like a quantum computer chip in the middle, and these little lines and stuff, and this verbiage that's a message,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think they're real, Doc? I mean, are these things real? I saw a documentary just a few days ago where there's other little balls that are looking for the ball that fell down.
yeah, yeah, the scouts, yeah,
The scouts. Yeah. But
yeah. Well, seeing that, I don't know Jaime Masad personally. I know him through my friends.
hmm
Um, and he's not one to go too nuts over stuff unless there's a way of analyzing it. Like the mummies.
hmm
The gentleman that was with him, and I can't remember his name. I actually spent the whole day with him 2 months ago in Arizona. The gentleman that brought the white zombie, or not the white zombie, the white aliens that were all in white powder.
Yeah.
That guy, that's the one who I was at an event with him. And yeah, I feel bad. I forgot his name.
Now,
Um,
do you think that the skeleton that this guy had, the small alien, was it real? People
yeah,
ask.
they did MRIs, and there's bone structure, there's organs, and it's not cow parts and lips and all stuff put together like they try to pass it off with paper mache. It's the real deal because I got to see the actual photos he took. I mean, he's the guy that's there at the table with the Mexican media explaining all this with Jaime Massad.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you can't get any closer to that story than I was.
Right.
So I got to see all the photos, and they are online. The ones with the MRIs are the most impressive because it does. It looks like it could be a paper mache from the outside, but that's the is it not lime? What's the powder that's makes sure nothing disintegrates? Anyway, so a coating,
Alkaline or whatever, some kind of.
alkaline. I was thinking lime, but it's not lime because that's you get rid of bodies.
Yeah. 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 But no,
So
I might be able to talk to you about some connections in Mexico City. We'll do that off air. So I'll talk to you about that. Some project I might be getting involved in. Not quite sure yet, but I want to get out there and enlighten people like you do. I mean, what you're doing here, and you got some things on Tartaria, and I was very interested in the Tartarian, event, and especially like in 1903 in St. Louis, right across the river from me.
all right,
They had
World's
the
Fair
World's
on that.
Fair, and they had buildings there. They put the buildings up in less than a year, and then all they showed a few little scrawny, dirty, humans building these buildings, and I thought that's no, that couldn't be just them, you
Wait,
know.
were you around for that?
Yeah, I was around for that.
Oh my God, yeah, I'm
See
an adult
see
too.
the
Shit.
white beard.
I always think I'm 18, but I'm not.
But
So,
uh,
yeah, no, supposedly those buildings were founded. Now, uh, I wasn't there. I
yeah,
wasn't there.
well,
But
I wasn't
why
either. I
would
look
you
old enough
tear
to
it
be
down? Why would you tear down such beauty if
right.
it's all marble and it has all these beautiful, it looks like, well, how France, Paris used to look back in the day.
Mhm.
I mean, why would you tear all that down? That could be part of the culture of that time. But no, it's because people would have figured out that they didn't build it for the fair, you
Right.
know? Hence, it
We
was
still
founded.
got some remnants in St. Louis at the art museum. They got a little pavilion there that was left over, and then there's a some kind of I guess a column that goes straight up in the air on the Grand Avenue over there, and it was left over from the World's Fair. So they do have things, I guess, that would that we would be used to looking at instead of
Yeah.
the immaculate buildings that they had. They showed this one building. How many miles long was this building in St. Louis that they had, Doc? I mean, it
Oh,
was
it blew away any Costco.
yeah, yeah. But no, no, Doc, you got some pictures I guess you want to show us, and some laser stuff you want to show us.
Well, yeah, that I do want to show you. That's really cool. Now,
Yeah. The laser idea is very, you show a real good, you
it's
know,
compelling.
but yeah, it is a compelling. You
Yeah.
show what really happened, how these buildings were made by laser, not by not pick an axe or whatever.
Right. So, let me get this set up here
Okay.
and
This is
get
an
it.
amazing topic. I've always liked it. And once you said that you were studying it and certain researching it, I thought, oh, good.
Well,
Let's.
actually, you know what? Hold on. Let's do this in reverse. let me do this. Yeah, let me do this in reverse. We'll show the photos first.
Okay.
What is, okay? So let me hit the share button here and get that all set up for it real quick. Hit that. And just in case, yeah, there we go. Share sound. That's what I didn't do last time. And share. All right. Can you see that picture
Yeah.
right there?
There's a picture. Yes. You see
All
it.
right. So the some of these are small, and I didn't get a chance to take out the small images, but if you look at some of these, like that one,
Hmm.
but if you notice, see how it's carved like a square? I know it's really small. I apologize. Like, oh wait, here I can do this. There we go. Aha!
They do start off with a square, don't they?
Yeah, it's like a frame.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this is an actual interior of one of these facilities. Look, I mean, just look at these columns, and then this is a huge temple in
Hmm.
India, and
Beautiful. Yeah.
I I don't believe hammers and chisels did any of this
Mm. Uh-uh.
at all. The intricacies, if you look where these statues are, they're made of marble, and there's spacing behind them, and
Mhm.
this is all one piece. Okay, this
That
isn't like
looks
a
like
bunch of pieces.
that looks like a frequency signal in the roof at the very top.
Well, that's the other thing. I was looking up some photos for the show. Was a lot of the buildings have things like that, in coming down, and they look like turbine engines. You take a turbine engine and put it side by side, they're identical. It's
Right.
insane, the intricacies of it. Okay, so hammers and chisels. If you're going to be doing this, there's going to be a lot of stuff broken, and if it's one piece, it's like it's a one take. You
Hmm.
can't screw up. But starting from way up here. It's just unfathomable, fathomable. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But here it looks like a turbine engine,
Yeah.
and that's stone and marble. I mean, you chisel a lot of those little tips would break, right?
Yeah.
And then you see this, and it's all perfect row, and everything's aligned. And then you look at this. This is the hieroglyphs on a monolith in Egypt. A lot of people, millions and millions and millions of people have seen this.
Yes.
All right. Look at it really closely. What kind of imperfections do you see? Any?
I don't see any. They look like they're in alignment too, like three figures.
Perfectly alignment, right? Well, we're going to get right back to that. Okay, here's some more images. Here's another images where it's squared out in a rock, all one piece of rock. All those little pieces, all one piece, right? Same here, same here.
Hmm.
My goodness. Can you think of all the artists you need for something like this?
Yeah.
Now,
People
this is
take
a
a good
famous
look at this.
temple.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Take a
this
good
is
look
a
at this.
famous temple that's carved into and out of one gigantic mountain, one big stone. Okay,
Yeah.
huge tourist attraction. And here's is this the same one or a different one?
That's a different one.
That's a
I've
different one.
seen
Yeah,
this one's
yeah,
been in a lot of documentaries. Yeah.
right. I had yeah, and this was also carved out of a rock, as well as these, as well as these. Look at the intricacies in that.
Hmm.
Okay. Does common sense tell you that you could use a chisel and hammer to do this? Look at the little flower on the drum in the lap. I
Yeah. And
and
then
it's
they're filling us full of bull is what they're doing. History
right.
is all
And look at
wrong.
this one. Here's another one, perfectly cut out.
Hmm.
Okay. Perfectly like sliced out, right? All right. Look at that. Same thing. Then, these are just more. I mean, you all that rock they'd have to chisel out behind these people in the statues.
Yeah.
All right.
And how do they get into the inner rooms, Doc? I don't understand. How does the laser get around into the inner room? I guess they
Well, we
walk.
haven't got that far yet. You've jumped the gun.
Oh,
Hold
okay.
on.
Jump the gun, you miss your target. A pew pew, we're supposed to say.
So
That's
all,
just
all
for
that,
entertainment purposes.
yeah, yeah, all this kind, and then here's Petra, famous. It was in Indiana Jones and Last Crusade with Sean Connery.
Hmm.
Same here. Okay, now this is a chain made of stone. Each one of those rings move on its own. Okay, and there's some more. And then, of course, that's something completely different, but that's giant.
This
We
is
have to
a
talk about later.
laser
But watch
engraving
this.
machine. All you need to do is pick up this stone from the river, connect the machine to the computer, and select the image to carve onto the pebble. The device does not require any consumables or perishable pads. It just needs to be connected to electricity, and it works right away. Additionally, engraving on stones and metals is done with very high efficiency. Now, after the engraving is finished, let's take a look at the
Look at
result
all
on
that
this
detail.
pebble. This is a
This is how I think
Yeah.
those structures were made. Okay. So if you have a very high-tech society that has technology beyond what we know yet, who's to say that's not how it was done? I strongly believe. I
I
don't
think,
believe it was hammer and chisel. I will,
Doc,
if
I
someone
think you
says
just,
that, they're not my friend.
yeah, Doc, I think you presented a good analogy of these two things, the laser and then these buildings and everything and how they're constructed. And also,
Yeah,
I'm glad you kind of cleared up that mud flood thing, and that's also done with frequencies. And this lasers, I guess, are light frequencies, apparently, right, Doc?
correct. It's all frequencies. And frequencies was a big thing, especially like during those times when things were burning a lot.
Mhm.
No, won't get too specific, but it was weird because things that were blue
Yeah,
didn't burn,
yeah,
and that's because of a frequency.
hmm
So hence a lot of people are painting their, I mean, China is. China knows something that we're not
yeah.
telling our people. They're
I
painting their roofs all blue.
yeah, I know. I saw that.
So because I think that's what we're getting at is we're getting to a point where we're using technology that we could be using for good and for society. They're going to be using as weapons because with one of these they could take anybody out, you
Yeah,
know.
a do weapon is what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
and so all of these these were all stone, so they had their harmonic resonances. Now, if we go and we start looking at cathedrals, which I believe were, part of the empire of them. Yeah, you ever think so fast you get ahead of yourself?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. Well, you got a lot to
um,
say. Yeah.
oh, my brain, it's like I'm just trying to every now and then trying to find an exit to get off the highway, in my head. But this along with the stone, the building of these major cathedrals over in Europe, you look at them, they're gorgeous, but they're even sometimes more intricate than the one I just showed you. Now, I could probably pull some up and show you, but all these cathedrals were not originally churches. They were all healing centers. They were made so people would come in and lay down, and the harmonics of the building, along with the pipe organs,
Mhm.
as well as the bells, all intertwined, had healing effects on people. And the big open floors were so people could lay down, and the paintings on the ceilings so they had something to look at, you know, to get them in that mindset.
Mhm.
And each one of these cathedrals, if you look, no two cathedral windows, the main windows on no two are the same. Why? Because each church has its own resonance frequency. And they knew this then. So they knew about psionics, where you can take sound and have sand, and you see the different geometric patterns of different frequencies. The church has its resonance frequency, and and what they would do is they would make that sound and create that image. They would be like, okay, it looks like this kaleidoscope looking image. And then they would make the big opening to the cathedrals, that big window, which they put stained glass in later, um, as a billboard almost going, this building will heal you of these things, and this cathedral will heal you of these things. And the bells were used as well. Hence why, also to drive off evil spirits, and some say the draconians, because the draconians have that thing, that device where their vibration, we see them as human beings. But
Mhm.
if you put on the glasses like and they live, you see they're lizard people, right?
Right.
Bells did the same thing. The
Yeah.
bells, when they would ring it, say there's, bad people are coming into the village, they ring it. The bells would make it so they didn't look like humans and they were known as demons and they would go out. But if the bells were gone, the demons can roam freely within the community, which is what Hitler did. And he took all the bells from all the villages, all the churches during World War II, saying it was for the war effort.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
lost all our bells around here too in the
yeah.
States. They took them all down. And I guess was that some kind of a conspiracy that they just wanted to try to redirect history for us, Doc? I guess.
I'm actually working on a book on that, actually. It's called Bells. And um, kind of like a Dan Brown novel.
Yeah.
Uh, but we learn that when all these bells were taken, that evil flourished everywhere through the towns. And that's why we have so many Satanists, so much just evil people really everywhere. And um, the bells we come to find are the things that save us. Instead of handing out glasses to everybody, once they get bells back into the churches and they start ringing them, the bad people are being seen for who and what they really are.
Mhm.
So,
So
it's just all fiction, though.
no, it's all conspiracy theories, in which finding out the conspiracy theories are coming true. That's like Kennedy, Representative Luna said that Kennedy was shot by two shooters, not by one. And that's
Yeah.
what they found out in that committee. But they're not even talking too much in that committee. They're not saying
Yes. Well,
much at all.
I announced today, right now on your show, that we campaign for Thank Your Conspiracy Theorist Day.
Fakers
I
can,
think we should have one.
yeah.
Everybody else is getting a holiday. Why not us? Now that everything's coming true. And it's so funny. All these people, oh my God. Oh my God, it's in Congress. They're talking about it. There's whistleblowers. Oh, there's this documentary and that. Oh my God, it's real. No shit. We've been trying to tell you for
Yeah,
decades.
it is real.
Hello, McFly, wake up.
It is real, like for people who've seen them up close and have been visited. And I still have so they mess with my cars. I got two cars. They mess with both of them. How could both of them have the same problem with emergency brake comes on by itself?
Mm,
Yeah, kind of weird. Uh,
yeah. Yeah, they'll like come in your house and like take the batteries in your remote control and flip them so it doesn't work. And then you realize
oh,
someone flipped my batteries.
my TV changes channels when I wake up in the morning. It changes from sleepy time music, and which is nice, pleasant music, and it goes to a news station. When I wake up, I said, "What the hell? I'm not up yet. I just got out to pee, and the channel changed on me. Whatever ghost or whatever ET is
Uh,
doing this,
that could be my fault because back when I was a kid, when cable TV was new,
yeah,
everybody had the same remote control, right? Everybody did. So me and my friends at late at night, we go up to people's windows and turn their TVs on. And then they freak out and we turn it back on.
yeah. The
We were
early
mischief. We were mischievous. We were Gen X. So
Well,
we
so yeah,
yeah.
so was my generation. But we had these remotes that made a little sound when you push down on the little
Oh
button.
yeah.
Yeah, it made a kind of a hissing sound. I guess it's a frequency sound that changed the TV. Yeah,
Oh
I never went around to different people's houses. I didn't know they worked that way. I didn't know. Heck, I don't know.
wow.
I should have
I,
learned more.
I,
Yeah,
I wasn't Beaver Cleaver growing.
yeah. But uh, I know that they play around with their invisible. You say draconians. Okay, now the draconians are part of the deep state of the cabal. And
They kind of made it. They kind of created it.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so what do you think their intentions are, Doc? Are they trying to rush us into ending our civilization or what?
They see it. Ow, shoot, I just twitched my back. They see us as livestock.
Mhm.
We're a food source. All these people that disappear in the forests and all that, you know, they're 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 being taken. It's not grizzly bears and it ain't Bigfoot,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of places in national forests that are marked off. Just like in the Grand Canyon, there's a whole private area of the Grand Canyon that is off limits to everybody, and the security officers that are armed and walk the perimeters they work for NASA. And it's because when the Smithsonian Institute found out about a guy came across the cave and there was all these Egyptian statues and Buddha and all these caverns and mummified things. And So he told them, and the Smithsonian went in, um, took it all. There was statues of giants in caskets, and they took all those, and they kept these things in the basement. Now, there's a story of actually a whistleblower that came out recently. You know those gold hunting shows or
Yeah.
those guys get in scuba dive outfits and they just search for stuff dropped in the lake off the bridge.
Right.
Okay, so these guys were doing a show and they were talking about the story where a steel box train car filled with bones, giants, dinosaurs, all kinds of stuff, right? That didn't fit the Rockefellers and Rothschilds narrative because they run all this stuff.
Yeah.
Their family, ever since the Napoleon War, the last Napoleon War, do you know how they took over Europe overnight? The Rothschilds and Rockefellers?
Uh,
This is real quick. It's not a long story.
Gold, money, whatever. Yeah.
Okay, it's brilliant. It's evilly brilliant. So the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, they were bankers. Okay. Two families of bankers, but they had people that were in the military. So they were able to find out information before the public did. Well, they found out that Hitler failed in the last battle, but they spread rumors in London through the stock exchange and everything that he had won and he was on his way to London. So everybody sold all of their shares, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And then 48 hours later, the news came that Hitler wasn't coming, and they went to buy back all their shares, and they had to pay like triple, quadruple what they sold it for. And hence, that's how they took over Europe overnight, literally. And so they've been in control of every conflict since the Napoleon War, every little small guerrilla warfare, every country takeover or coup. It's all them.
Yeah.
It's all about
I,
money.
yeah, I talked to a guest the other night about the three popes. There's a black pope, a gray pope, and a white pope, the one that's in the front of the public. And then
Mhm.
they're tied in with the 12 big rich families like Rothschild, Rockefellers, and all those
The blue bloods, as they call them.
blue bloods. And yeah, we're all blue blood until our blood hits oxygen, then it turns red. I think isn't that the way it goes, Doc?
No, because I've had a lot of IVs and like ERs and stuff, and it's not air. I mean, it's just comes out. The blue bloods is because the Anunnaki, their blue, their blood was blue. So, Anunnaki and giants mating people and all that, there's going to be this bloodline. I mean, and it all comes to blood. Blood is a really big thing. You ever wonder why blood is always part of sacrifice and rituals and, bloodlines and all that?
Yeah, like the
Because it
Mayan.
all stems back from the Garden of Eden. Okay. When they when that all happened and then they had Cain and Abel. Well, when they had Cain and Abel in the story, some people interpret that the snake, was the devil, and he had sex with Eve, and then Adam had sex with Eve. And that brought on Cain and Abel. Hence, and if you know the story of Cain and Abel,
Mhm.
you know, one was good, one was really bad. One was the blood of Christ or the blood of God. The other was blood of Satan. Okay. And when Cain killed Abel, that just led that bloodline and it just grew and it grew. And then you had the monsters and the giants and all this stuff going on, and there were giants, by the way. You look at all these buildings that had like 16 floor tall doors. That's what it was for. It wasn't for no parade. But anyway, where was I? I skipped off the highway.
You talk about the giants, uh, yeah, 16 stories high, whatever. And then
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about the giant trees, Doc.
Yes, that's a good one too.
Uh,
You have Devil's Tower is like one of the most perfect ones in the States to talk about
mhm.
because they say it's lava. It's like from where?
Yeah.
Where did it come? It's a petrified tree. And they're starting to find that a lot of these mountains are petrified things. We have there's this I don't know if it's in Arizona. It's a mountain range and it's red and white stripes everywhere. And you can get like salt rock from it and everything. It's that and if you look at it, it looks like meat. If
Mhm.
you petrified meat.
Yeah.
you know.
That's
But the trees, yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad that Avatar was made so people could get a visual of what it would look like. And a lot of these trees, of course, went miles high. And of course, we had giants. So the trees that we see today, these big trees, that was the grass back then,
yeah, yeah, I
you
know.
know. And that also allowed dinosaurs to habit the world then because the atmosphere was so good up there. But once those trees were cut, and they're all, you look at all the plateaus, they're almost all the same height and they're all flat.
Mhm.
But you look down, you'll see, bark. It's rock, but it looks like petrified bark and whatnot. You have the Grand Canyon itself is just a rock quarry
Right.
where they dug.
That
I
kind
could
of
go, I could
explains.
go everywhere in any
Yeah.
direction you want to go.
Yeah. I was just thinking about, that the giant trees, they had more oxygen back then, and
Yes,
people got bigger from more oxygen levels.
yes,
And those trees were probably putting off a lot of oxygen, taking in carbon dioxide, these giant trees that you're talking about. And also the giants, unless the Smithsonian was our enemy, right, Doc?
yeah. They're the ones that broke everything and hid everything so they could write their own history, and which is basically supposed. Well, rumor has it they added another 1,000 years to what our year really was. So technically, this would be year 1025.
Okay.
So it was to confuse everybody, erasing history, kind of like the Mandela effect everybody's witnessing throughout the world, is that things are changing. So
What about the glitch in the matrix that since we're getting into the reset with all this stuff with Tartaria and all these other things and giants? I know that had to happen. How long ago do you think, Doc, that those trees and the giants existed? And and I guess millions of years ago before the dinosaurs, maybe, Doc?
no, um, they're finding out that trees petrify a lot faster than we think. Um, you can go out in the woods and find like an old tree that's been laid down for a while, and you'll see like it's wood, but you peel apart something and it's petrifying.
Mhm.
It's the process of petrifying, and it didn't take a million years. So, uh, there's so much going on. The we are the like they say we are the fifth or sixth generation or society of humanity that's been here.
Yeah, I heard
We've
that.
had, Atlantis and the gods of Rome and all that. We've had these periods of time that sometimes we pass off as mythology, legend, and lore, when in fact it was the last remnants of true history. Um, but we we've had several resets, and I think that's what we are figuring out a lot now, especially with the internet and instant communication, verification, live streaming at some place. The fact that we can do something so instantaneously, where as before, they may have had to wait for the mail to come a month later. We are learning so fast, more truths, that it's becoming so intense for the average person that cognitive distance kicks in. And they're like, no, this is all fake. It's all, no, no, I don't believe it. You're all nuts. You're all conspiracy theorists.
Yeah.
It's conspiracy theory was created by the CIA as a keyword to trigger people. So if they hear conspiracy theory, they instantly, oh no, it's not real.
Yeah.
It just takes one word. It's a societal hypnosis trick that they put on us. And
Mhm.
only the ones of us that are awake can hear that word and not be all,
I mentioned the Matrix a while ago. What do you believe in that, Doc? Are we like a reset and a
are
Matrix?
we in a simulation?
Yeah,
Oh, I
basically.
believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all of these things that we're seeing in TV and film, that they all come from elements of truth. There might be fictional elements to it, so it can be fictional, but it stemmed from somewhere. The
Mhm.
the first thing a teacher will teach you in writing class in college is write what you know. And yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of writers out there in Hollywood that are probably not human, and George Lucas, you know, and they write
Okay,
all this
okay,
great
okay.
stuff.
You said George Lucas, Doc.
I was kidding.
What
Forgive me, George. Forgive me.
Hey, all right. but yeah, he knows a lot, doesn't he? He's either
No,
read.
actually, he was remote viewed by the Farsight Institute in Atlanta, which is a private, well, not private, it's a public remote viewing team. And they remote viewed into George Lucas's mind during the time of him writing Star Wars.
Mm,
And what they saw was he was subconscious or unconsciously, knowingly writing a history of one of his past lives.
okay. Uh,
Yeah. So Star Wars was where we were. Then you have Gene Roddenberry, who had a really good friend that was like a Men in Black kind of guy. But they
mhm.
would still meet every year at the cabin and have cognac and cigars and look at the stars. And one night, his buddy told him a bunch of stuff, saying, this is real, this is real. And Gene's like, I got to do this. I got to write about this. He goes, you can't. They'll kill us both by morning. So he started doing the science fiction and wrote it as such so that he could, because look, all that technology,
Mhm.
it's way beyond conspiracy that all the technology in the original Star Trek, not all, but a lot of it is now everyday use.
Yeah, yeah.
We're even past the flip phone,
Now the
So
wrist communicator, the watch communicator,
yeah, Dick Tracy, yeah,
and
all that.
we got that stuff today. Yeah, Doc. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. Do we live in the next? I believe we do. I just don't. I hope we're not laying in a big tube of goo like Keanu Reeves was in the Matrix. That'd be pretty nasty. But I could see because there was a program during COVID. Everybody was locked in, right? There was an app that came out called Randonautica. Did you ever play with it or hear of it?
No, no, I
Hey,
haven't.
this was, and you can look it up. It was really cool. I actually got to interview the creators of it. I was the first person to interview them on my show. And they created this app, which was connected to a laser-driven quantum computer in Australia. Okay. And this app, you would hold your phone and you'd open it up and you would just have to think. You didn't have to say anything out loud. And I'm going to do something really simple just to kind of give you an idea. So you could sit here and think purple, not say it out loud, just think it purple, right? Within 2 or 3 seconds, boom, latitude and longitude pops up within a radius, which in the settings, you can set like your radius, how far you want to travel. Um, and it will give you this latitude and longitude. And you go there and you will find something like a purple house, you know? But people were so bored during COVID, they were using it to get off the beaten path, when they were walking by themselves and stuff, try new places. And then one day, a couple, young couple, thought, I want to see something scary. And it gave them a latitude and longitude, which was underneath a dock on the coast of California, and it had a suitcase underneath it in the rocks, and it had two chopped up bodies in it. Well, that stuff went viral. Next thing you know, everybody and their dog is downloading Randonautica for the EBGB factor. So now you got all these kids and ghost hunter stuff going to haunted places, going, show me where there's ghosts, and it would take them, and they would do crazy stuff like people would get a latitude and longitude, end up in the middle of the field, and there would be nothing. And all of a sudden, someone would be pounding on their car and they take off. They go and they find a suitcase of money. They would find, bones, all these things. And when I interviewed them, the woman who helped create it, I forgot her name. She was gorgeous. She, I threw the idea at her. I said, well, let me ask you this. If we're in a simulation, okay, this is where you want to listen to it, because if we're in a simulation, we're code, right?
Yeah, we
Okay,
like computer code.
right. Zeros and ones. So everything around us, it's Dr. Pepper, this phone, this microphone, my hat, everything has its own identification code, right? If we were a simulation, and this is all computers. So with this app hooked up to a laser-driven quantum computer, not just AI, but quantum, okay? It's literally a Google search for our world. Like if you want to find something, you put it in there like I say, treasure. I want to find treasure. It may not be very specific what treasure. It might be a quarter, or a wallet with $1 in it, but that's a treasure to somebody. But that wallet had its own computer code, and when I was searching for it, the Randonautica would tell me where to go. So yes, I believe there's a really good chance that we're living in a simulation. But I also believe this is also could be a really real thing. And that our planet is just going through some major, major changes. Hence another reason why those trees were cut down, because our planet is in the Goldilocks zone, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Why is it the Goldilocks zone? Because you have this toroidal field coming from the sun, and we're in that donut layer where we can have hydrogen, oxygen, all that to have life. Okay. We weren't the original ones in the Goldilocks zone. At the one time, it was Pluto, and then it was all the other planets because the sun spits out matter and it clumps up and gets hard and it stays in orbit and it gets bigger, collecting more junk and more junk and more junk, and it becomes what we have like Mercury right now, right?
Mhm.
Well, it does that and it comes out, and by the time it gets to the Goldilocks zone, it cools off, there's hydrogen, oxygen, life starts, and all this stuff, right? But over millennias, as we have our world of history here, our planet is eventually going to leave the Goldilocks zone. Now, this would explain why in all the dystopian movies and TV shows, oxygen is really a big issue, right? How like blame it on, global warming. Why not blame it on the fact we might be going out of the Goldilocks zone?
Mhm.
So that would explain the pyramids on the Mars, the city of Sedona, and all that. There was life at one time, but now it's out there, no oxygen. When we leave, Venus is next.
Yeah,
It'll
yeah.
come, it'll flourish.
Mhm.
It will have that first big burst of oxygen, and you'll have these huge, huge trees. And the Anunnaki, who know the schedule, will come back, mine that planet, get the monkeys going, you know. And of course, it'll probably be a bunch of beautiful xenon women or whatever in Venus,
Yeah.
but that'd be great.
Tell me something. I mean, NASA, these reports are coming to us through internet and everything else. It's actually been on some news reports that there is a giant craft that's about 6 months away. They think, and the Pentagon actually, they're saying the Pentagon saying it could be the Anunnaki returning. Have you heard any of that, Doc?
Yeah, they come back every 3,200 years. You've seen Stargate?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the Anunnaki. They came here, they found in monkeys, they created DNA, boom, boom, boom. Here we are, humans as slaves to mine all the gold, like the Grand Canyon,
Hmm.
which is another reason why all those caverns and stuff were found in the Grand Canyon, because they were there.
Right.
Um, and they take these resources, they need the gold for their atmosphere because their planet was dying. And that was the last time they were here, supposedly. This time, I don't know if it's to take over. Oh, there's gonna be, they would want to dominate either way, but the fact that we've got our Space Force and all these people are starting to wake up to things and see things as they are, um, it's not going to be a shocker. It's going to be like Sir Arthur C. Clarke did a book called Hammer of the Gods. Oh no, 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 that not Hammer of the Gods. Childhood Lost. Um, and it's about aliens coming, but they hover for a full year above all the cities to get people used to it, to get to to, to get accustomed to the idea.
Just like they have been doing in New York, New Jersey, and around the
Exactly. And
world.
what's the guy named Bashar, who's the um what's it called when you let a spirit into you? Transmedium, or what are they called? Uh, I guess a medium or whatever. It's a person that lets ghosts come in and talk through them or whatever. But
Mhm.
this is this spirit named Bashar, who's an alien, and he said a week or so before at an event that you're going to see all these ships. Because someone said, how are they going to do it? Because they're all going to sit off the coastline to where you can't be directly on them, but you can see them from a distance. and they're just going to be there to let you know they're here. They're not going to come and attack or land in the White House lawn. It has to be a full human race event, not just certain people get to do it. It's like everybody has to accept it, before the next phase.
Are they kind of like the Draconians, the Anunnaki? Do they have us for lunch, Doc?
Um, I don't know, dude. I don't know. It's a lot of it's in the end, it's speculation on a lot of it because it's like filling in it's like having the Dead Sea Scrolls. You got to fill in the spaces that
Yeah.
weren't there.
I don't know if they'd want to eat us or not because we're polluted
Well,
so
the
much.
Draconians, yeah, we're a tasty dish to them, and they still are. That's why you have like down at Dulce, all those experiments and human slaves that are being kept, 5, 6 levels down. Though that's a food source for them. Military is not even allowed on the seventh floor at the bottom. It's Draconians only at Dulce. Um, and videos come out way before AI was around that shows some crazy labs and bodies in labs and stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah, I
it
went to
it's
that
real.
town. I went to that town, Dulcie, and I felt negative energy so bad. I just come from Sedona and Snowflake, and I
Big
went,
difference.
yeah, and I went to Petrified Forest, but then I went there and I ended up in Dulce, and I thought to myself, I'm getting out of here. I just felt that energy
Yeah.
there. It
It's
was,
the energy coming from below, from
yeah,
all that
yeah,
that trauma and evil that's going on down there.
yeah. What about
And
you said that
but
these reptilians or draconians, they live amongst us and they're shape shifting. Have you ever seen?
it's not necessarily the shape shifting. It's the frequency of how we see them. So
Hmm,
they change the frequency and it creates this hologram, I guess, that we see them as human beings, but they slip up. You see them on TV, you'll see the celebrities or the guys with the slit eyes
yeah,
blinking and stuff. And, it's just 5 o'clock news, it's not like, and you'll see it. You're like, my God, they're everywhere.
yeah, I've seen some things in Washington D.C. where I think it was McConnell. He was speaking and he had a speech impediment anyway. He's getting old, and then he was just standing there and he kind of this woman who walked up to him looked like an older woman and she was a secretary. She tapped him on the elbow or something.
Oh, yeah, when he locked up.
Yeah, and then he and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I've seen another woman sitting behind a Congress lady who was mouthing the words of the
Where it's as
everything.
she was saying it.
Yeah. And she saw the camera was watching her and then
Yeah.
she reared
She's,
back and
yeah.
yeah. So they are amongst us. Is that what you're thinking, Doc?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And if anybody has not seen the movie Them, or They Live, I'm sorry, They Live,
Yeah.
watch it. It's and V for Visitors
Yeah.
came out in the 80s. Remember that TV
Yeah.
show?
I
Watch
remember that.
that.
Yeah.
That was a warning too. I mean, media and books and TV and movies, that is how the real truth is coming out through fiction. It's making you feel okay in the theater, like that's a really messed up thing, but it's just a movie, so it doesn't really bother me. But then you see it more and more and more, and it's not that it doesn't bother you, it's just you're not fazed by it. So when it does happen, it's like they were doing they had the big announcements of all those ships, over November. And that's kind of was like, I'm done. You know, I've been telling everybody, but one thing happens, and now everybody's like, oh my God, there's UFOs. And I'm like, I'm done with y'all.
Yeah. I want to tell everybody that listens to this show, Doc Skinner, he's just going, it's coming off the cuff. And this is not, we don't have talking points. We don't have questions. I never take questions anyway. I always get talking points. But we just, he just letting loose with the things that he knows. And he can keep going on and on. But we're already at an hour, Doc. And so I like to cut it around an hour or whatever, a little bit after.
No
But
worries.
tell us your last, what can you give people advice now to enlighten them, Doc?
That's what I said in the beginning earlier is that as long as we all lift each other up, we'll all rise together. So if you're trying to climb and you're crapping on people on the way up that hill, your fall is going to be really fast. But if we all lift each other up, we have a foundation,
Yeah,
and we
we
can
have,
do great things. We can do what the Tartarian Empire, accomplished, or the Atlanteans. We have that in us.
We
We
can.
have that capability. We've just gotten kind of lazy lately.
Yeah, it's we have fierce battles, political differences, ideology. I don't know where that's all coming from. We need to stop it, but we're not going to get anywhere if we're spinning our wheels in the mud or whatever. But tell us where they can find your book, Doc Skinner,
Yeah.
and any work that you've done, like on YouTube.
Oh boy. Yeah. So YouTube would be 1028 Productions. It's 1028 Productions. And there's a bunch of videos, a lot of my old shows, some, that weren't shadow banned at least. They're still there. Lots of great guests, and just random stuff. And then Amazon, just go on Amazon Prime or however you get your books or stuff on Amazon and type in Fly, The Rise of Jet Parker. That's Jett, two T's, Parker. And if things go as planned, I hope to have part two written and published along with part three before August. That's the attempt. If not, I'll get the second one out. But it's a trilogy, and like I said, the scripts are done. I mean, Pete, certain studio wants to do the whole trilogy, but they're kind of, they got a lot of movies on their plate right now, so I
Yeah,
can't get up to that.
yeah.
And they can get that there, and also Kindle, it's an ebook as well. I'm working on getting it done in 28 different languages because indoor skydiving, like I said, is more popular everywhere else in the world than it is here, and I am here to change that.
Good, great. It's kind of like, you have these really lucid dreams where you feel like you're flying, and they say that's when you're being abducted. But what you're saying is that you feel like that you're flying in that wind tunnel or whatever they call it. But yeah, that's great. That's good.
Yeah,
Thank
if you have an iFly near you, I strongly go try it out.
you. Okay. Doc Skinner, thank you so much for being on the show. This is Dave Emmons with The Strange Reality signing off, and we hope you enjoy the show. It was very interesting. It was off the cuff. And I'll tell you what, Doc is always interesting. So thank you, Doc Skinner.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.